Hi, welcome to this brief introduction of the HR Data Manager. The HR Data Manager allows you to track information about applicants and employees and other related information, including job information, training information, and project information. I'm going to go ahead and jump into each of these screens briefly and just give you an idea of what's there so you can see what the HR Data Manager currently has and compare that potentially with what your needs are. Please remember that the HR Data Manager can be customized to meet your unique needs if you don't see what you need here. Jumping into applicant data, and I'm going to go ahead and pull up a record. We've got basic tracking of applicant information, much of which can then be pulled over into the employee record if that person ultimately is hired. So you don't have to re-enter things like the gender, ethnicity information, and all that. We have applicant history, so you can track each of the times that an applicant's applied. If they've applied for the same or multiple positions over the years, you can have that history right there at your fingertips. And in addition to being able to quickly see the status and the date information, you can click on details and get additional information such as interview comments and all that. If I jump over to some other tabs here, you can track individual applicant references and what their result or response was, the applicant skill sets and levels, basic contact information, and you can associate documents such as resumes or other things that you may need to that applicant record. And if needed, there's also the ability to track all communications in the form of a log here. So that's just a basic quick thing on the applicant data that just allows you to get that in there, and it's fairly simple and straightforward, but there's a lot behind it as far as being able to take a look at the applicant skill sets and associate that with the job they're applying for and all that. So I'm going to go ahead and return back to the main screen and then jump over into employee data. Pull up a record here. Okay, in the employee data, again, the initial screen here allows you to track that basic demographic information about the employee. We've got their employee number, social, date of birth, all that EEO information, veteran information, and all that right here on this main screen. And then we've got down below here the service history. So if you've had cases where people have worked for the organization, left, and then come back, you can individually see for an individual occurrence what their years of service were, or cumulatively here at the top here. But you've got all that information right there at your fingertips. Additional information like I-9 and all that, if I hit this button here, pops up, and I can track the date that it was provided, what documents were provided, and any appropriate expiration dates. And then we've also got disability information for the Americans with Disabilities Act in case any reasonable accommodations need to be made. And if your organization needs, there's union-related information here as well. I'm going to jump over here onto the next tab where you can track employee position history as well as compensation-related information. In the employee position information, we've got the job, their department, effective dates, and all that. And you can track as much as you need for historic information as somebody moves on through the organization. Down below, compensation, again, is historic, so you can track as many changes as you need over time. And then you also have the ability to track bonuses, loan or grants, and any court order related information that's needed that affects compensation. Moving on, we can track basic contact information about the employee, family members, and emergency contacts. and you can have as many emergency contacts or family members as you need. Training and education tab allows us to take a look at the employee's training, certificates and licenses, education, and skills. And again, mentioning skills, this ties back in with information that potentially was also input on the applicant screen. For the purposes of this program, training is more for tracking a structured training events where you have multiple attendees and an instructor, and basically can track the day and time they took that course and who else attended. Where some people also don't want to track at that level, so they opt to use the certifications and licenses tab to track training, where it's more just a straightforward select what it is from the list, the date, and such. So again, you've got that ability to track training events, certificates and licenses, education, including degrees earned, what the major and minor was, internal code if you use one, and those skill sets. You can track any equipment that the company has issued relating to that employee and what the status and value of that equipment is. Performance evaluations, you can track the overall result as well as, for workflow purposes, the status and appropriate date for that status of the evaluation. So, for example, if it's still in supervisor review, you know where to go look for that evaluation. You can also track factor ratings of your choice to actually put rating information in the program for that evaluation. And optionally, you can import the job functions if they've been defined in the job information to provide ratings on those functions. But that's completely optional. And you can also define goals for the employee and how those may relate to any organizational goals that have been set. Leave and attendance allows you to track any type of leave you want to track, allocation information, start date, end date, how many days were affected, how many work hours, and associated costs related to that absence. You can also track employee leave balance for accrual type accounts, and you can have whatever leave types you want to define in the drop downs. Benefit information, and this is one of the screens where we're very flexible in that different organizations tend to have different level need for benefit tracking. So this is one where this screen that's showing right now tracks basic benefit provider plan, start dates and end dates, and what the employee and employer premium for that is. But this can definitely be adjusted to track additional information as needed. And we can also track dependent information below. Incident information allows you to track accidents, workers' comp disability cases, and grievances, which can be actually in the form of grievance, complaints, discipline, etc. Employee reminders, which show up on the main screen when opening the program. Employee awards. Groups, and the employee groups is essentially where you can tie groups of employees together for different things. For example, if you have a website committee, you can actually create a group called Web Committee and then assign appropriate members to that group. Ongoing employee notes, documents similar to the applicant screen where you can associate whatever documents you wish to that employee, and user defined in case something else in the program doesn't do exactly what you need. But again, remember, we can also customize the program to do what you need. I'm going to return back to the main screen, and briefly I had mentioned employee groups, and using as an example the web group. On this screen here, as opposed to viewing it from the employee perspective, now I can view it from the group and actually see who members of a particular committee are and what their role in that committee is or group. I'll go back to there. Job information allows you to track basic information about the job. The only thing that's required here for it to show up in the drop-down list is the job title. But if you choose to, you can add additional information, such as here we've got the job summary. You can put a default department, EEO category, the FLSA status for that job, ADA compliant job functions, and it helps by giving you a description of how to do that. Competencies, responsibilities and work conditions, requirements including experience and education, and again we've got skill sets for the job now, which can relate back to what's been entered for the applicant and the employee information. So from here we have the basic information where we can create and print a job description. Go ahead and close out of that, and let's take a look at training course events. This is where I was mentioning the more in-depth tracking for training, where you can track course events. In this case we have a course called Microsoft Access 2007 Level 3, and for this event it's going to take place in conference room 203 on the dates shown, and it's going to be for a set number of hours, and you can optionally say there's a maximum number of attendees. And so then down below here we've got a list of the attendees and what their role in the training is. So from there I'm going to go ahead and return to the main screen. That generally covers most of the HR related functions. For some of the smaller organizations where it's not a dedicated HR team, but they've got an administrative assistant that wears many hats, sometimes there's the need to track other information that's less HR related, but still ties in with the employee. So we've added the ability to track customer information and project information, and then you've got the ability to track more information related to projects as well, which I'll get to in just a second here. Basic customer information, address, phone numbers, customer contacts. The customer groups work similar to that employee groups that we mentioned earlier. You can create groups of whatever name you need to track like organizations. Customer projects, which I'll get into a little more in a minute, and historic notes. So this allows you to enter notes over time relating to that customer. So now if I come back over here and I go to customer project, this is where it ultimately ties back to the employee. I can define project information including benchmarks and invoicing information, and then I can actually put together a project team consisting of employees. And so this closes that loop between the customer project information and your HR employee information. So again, that was just a brief introduction and overview of the HR Data Manager, touching on each of those main areas. And feel free to check out the 30-day free trial, and if you see something that it doesn't do that you'd like it to do, let us know, and we can see what it would take to get it to work to do what you need. Thank you very much for your time.